From Ratbee, on a TikTok post where a girl was responding to a comment asking her to put a trigger warning for being skinny. Look, only if it's a full body shot, I'm not triggered by it, but other people might. Start respecting other people's triggers, it's not that hard. Some people need to realize that being skinny is fatphobic because you're making skinny the beauty standard. Killer Tapir, a person's mere existence is not a trigger to respect. Olavish, it's eerily reminiscent of women should cover up head to toe to avoid making men uncomfortable. It's another way of policing women's bodies in order to gain and or exercise social power.
But seriously, if you're triggered just by the fact that somebody else is skinny and they exist, you probably need to work on your own problems.
From Texas Spoon Tapa. Kind of sick of thin girls pretending to be dessert-loving people. How often do you eat carbs, babe? Because if you do, you ain't gonna look like that. Stop fooling people. Starvazer. But I thought weight was determined by genetics, not what you eat. Thawing of Zardoz. It's not genetics, it's all the medications that these fantastically healthy people take that causes weight gain.
As an aside, I think thin people enjoy it in small quantities, which is probably the best way, because everyone knows the first bite is the best.
Elmir 2000 brings us. Imagine a world where diet culture didn't exist. What would that look like? No guilt associated with food choices, no calories on menus, no diet companies, no scales, no calorie tracking apps, no step counting apps, no pathologizing of the word fat, no diet talk, no good or bad foods, no weight bias, and no weight stigma. The fast food industry would love this theoretical world, Wasted Weeb replied. From Ms. Beaver. You call it a lifestyle change, but are you really going to log your food and exercise in an app for the rest of your life? Bonbee. I mean, you could apply this to anything that people do that benefits their health and hygiene. Brushing your teeth. Are you really going to brush your teeth twice a day for the rest of your life? Like, yeah, if that's what's going to keep my teeth from falling out.
Also, if it's a lifestyle change, the dream is that you stop having to count calories every single day.
From Anno Knitter. Seems like Apple is fat-phobic. Why do I need a watch to judge my body and tell me what is healthy? Sounds like capitalist nonsense to me. Cucumber X. Your resting heart rate is 140. Your blood pressure is 190 over 120. And you don't breathe when you sleep. You fat-phobic piece of poop.
Seriously though, I don't understand being mad at something that just gives you measurements. That's its job.
From Alkali Seraphin. Avoid restricting calories, even for women without PCOS. Diets that seek to restrict your energy intake have been proven not to work. Back in 2007, researchers from UCLA systematically analyzed 31 diet studies to assess their effectiveness. The result? They found that only a tiny minority of dieters sustained their weight loss, with the vast majority regaining more weight than they lost within a few years. Sadly, this is old news, and yet restriction dieting is still seen as the only way to lose weight by many health professionals. Guy Musk. Oddly, she forgot to mention that the tiny minority of dieters that did sustain their weight loss correlated exactly with the tiny minority of dieters who did not subsequently start overeating again.
As a non-joke aside, this means you definitely should try to choose a diet you can stick with for the rest of your life.
From Manwathiel Ondemil. You have a muffin top because it's where organs are held. You shouldn't reduce it. It can have an effect on ovaries and stomach. Benjo83. You have a muffin top because your pants are too tight. Flowers for Tamlin. Yeah, I was going to say get fitted for new trousers and it should be fine.
Or alternately, just accept the fact that people store fat there. It's not a big deal. Even super skinny people have a little tiny muffin top if they wear tight pants.
From Nagito is Nugget. When did I body shame her? I just said that in the future she's most likely going to get health issues. People should stop spreading misinformation and say stuff like, oh, I'm overweight but it's healthy, because it's not healthy. Exactly, love. Body shaming her by saying that she's going to have health problems for not being skinny. God, humanity just proves me every day that Gen Z is just as bad as any other gen. Book Hermit. If she doesn't stop smoking, she'll likely have trouble breathing on her own when she's older. Totally shaming and not an observed pattern from years of longitudinal studies and human experience. Beneficial Scars brings us. CW, mention of hospitals, test results. My husband is in the hospital for an infection. I'm getting his test results in real time via the hospital's patient care portal. I just came here to say that fat people are healthy. Every single one of his tests is within normal range for all of his metabolic markers. Only his white blood cells are a bit higher due to the infection. These fatphobic doctors can kick rocks. My baby is healthy and fat.
Wait a second, she married her baby?
Note, this post is not intended to erase fat people who do have health conditions, mental illnesses, chronic disorders, disabilities, and/or more. Fat folks who are reading here and have these conditions, I see you and you are valid. I am simply stating that doctors should not assume poor physical health based on body shape. OCR Amazon. My husband is in the hospital for an infection. Does not equal my baby is healthy. From Violetta Rosa. The likelihood of developing an eating disorder is much higher than developing diabetes, so yes, my kids eat sugar.
Does she mean straight sugar? Gross.
A bunch of numbers replies. Percentages for comparison. Americans with diabetes, 9.4%. Americans with eating disorder, 3%. Note that I do not include binge eating disorder in this figure, because when FAs talk about eating disorders, they never admit that there's anything but the restrictive variety. Little Sally Racket brings us. So the question is, which boulder are you going to choose to roll? The must lose weight boulder, or the FU I will go boldly, defiantly accept the body I've got, and live in it boulder? OCR Amazon. Plot twist, the latter boulder is 200 pounds heavier. From Arkin Van Helsing. There's a bunch of pictures showing how much fruit and veg you could eat, instead of eating an equivalent amount of junk food, like Doritos and chocolate chips. This helpful guide about what 200 calories looks like reminds us just how much healthy food we're giving up each time we have a treat. Yeah, butt trench. How dare you eat an order of french fries, when you could have literally shoved 22 banana peppers in your fudging face hole? What a pile of poop you are. And please put up some price tags on each side of your poopy food shame posts. Eskanonen replied, even if the healthy food is more expensive, doesn't that help you eat less that much easier? I never got this argument. It's really they just can't stand being hungry for 2 seconds. They have no ability to separate discomfort from actual harm. That's my theory, at least.
As an aside, I have to disagree with this. I think the junk food is reprogramming people's brains and bodies so that they feel they need to eat every couple hours, because the junk food isn't very filling or satisfying in the long term, only the short term.
From Liana Verdicana. You don't have to be physically hungry to eat. Grumbling in the tummy is only one sign of hunger. Even thinking about food a lot can be a sign that you are hungry. If you want breakfast, eat breakfast. Great advice for people in the early stages of anorexia recovery. Terrible advice for everyone else, replied Emily Melmoth. From Pearson. I hate that weight gain is seen as not looking after yourself when, for a lot of people, it's a sign that we are enjoying food. Maybe seeing our friends more, maybe going out more, maybe just letting go of societal standards for a bit. Weight gain could be from happy changes too. Maria Fit replied, actually that depends on the starting weight of the person. Obviously it's going to be regarded as not looking after yourself when you were already overweight or obese to begin with. If the person was underweight, that's a different story. I really get frustrated when fat people claim their increase in weight is because they stopped starving themselves, because it's truly a crock of poop.
I can kind of understand where the original poster came from. When you're happy, like for example when you start dating or get married, you tend to put on pounds. But that does not mean that putting on the pounds is necessarily good for you. For a lot of people, not so good. And you need to find a way to control it.
From Elmir 2000. Me. Well, what I would diagnostically consider eating disorders. Disordered eating is broader than what some might. Most any kind of food restriction, preoccupation with food and body, fear of becoming or of being fat, judging self as bad based on body size. Them. But then that would mean most dieters fit in criteria for eating disorders. Me. Yes. Book Hermit. Which is why professional doctors are the ones that diagnose people with mental illnesses, and not Instagram coaches. Although if we look at this unrelated post from Facetious, apparently even doctors can sometimes be wrong. I underwent weight loss over quarantine and I was falsely diagnosed with orthorexia by my physician, who tried to get me to go to some HAES nutritionist group, whose slogan was, ditch the scale. We never even talked about my diet, eating habits, or mindset. She just threw the diagnosis at me as soon as she saw that I lost weight. I went from being on the verge of an overweight BMI down to the middle of a healthy BMI. It hurt my feelings when she tried to pin my weight loss on orthorexia, because I had worked so hard not only to get fit, but also to ensure that my mental health was in fact intact.
It's kind of scary to think that HAES nutritionists are starting to invade the real medical market.
From Fast and Fly. The best times to do intermittent fasting: when you're sleeping, when you shower, when you go to the bathroom, between satisfying and filling meals. Stop worrying about stressful food rules. Just follow your body's internal cues for when and how much to eat for best outcomes.
I don't care how many memes she posts, I'm not going to start eating while I'm going poop.
From Liana Berdekana. Messed up stuff thin people say. I earn my thin privilege by working out, eating healthy, and taking care of my body. Listen, butthead. The point of privilege is that it is never earned. That's the rule. Class privilege, white privilege, whatever privilege, it's never earned. I don't care how many hours you spend at the gym, how many carrots you eat, or how much cake you turn down. Thin privilege, just like any other privilege, is never, ever, ever earned. Ancient matter. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Privilege is always unearned. Thin privilege can be attained through hard work and discipline. If someone gets something through hard work and discipline, then it's earned. Therefore, thin privilege is not a privilege. It's an achievement. From Clonandine Dreams. If someone has highest weight, starting weight, current weight, goal weight, or ultimate goal weight in their blog description, get off their blog immediately. They're either a thin spo, pro-eating disorder blog, or a fitness blog that focuses on exercise for the sake of being thin. You're looking at the blog of a fatphobe, and fatphobes, especially if they used to be fat or have an eating disorder that they're not in recovery for, will not even hesitate to harass you and try to get their fatphobic friends in on the bullying. Blocking them will not stop them from attempting to keep harassing you. Many of these fatphobes think fat people are either better off skinny with eating disorders or outright dead. I'm not exaggerating this. They do not care about health. They do not know anything about science or nutrition, and they do not consider fat people to be human beings. Don't support these hate blogs. Killer Tapir. I don't want to go with the cult accusation, but trying to persuade members of the in-group that the out-group are all horrible people who hate you and want you to suffer or die, and they're only telling lies so you shouldn't even hear what they have to say, because the only information you need comes from the in-group, is a pretty big red flag. Once again, it's about preventing people from seeing contradictory evidence. From Secretary Similar. The question isn't, do diets work for weight loss? It's, for how long and at what cost? You're making me crazy, replied. So my question is, what's the cost of giving up? What's the cost of letting obesity and emotional dependence on food rule your entire life? How long can your body tolerate the state you let yourself be in? For how long will you blame others for your own insecurities, problems, and weak character? How many times a day can you victimize yourself and point fingers at others for things you can blame on no one but yourself? Keep yourself in that sad state, cool, but advocating for others to lose hope is weak, pathetic, and gross. So yeah, darn these horrible people who think taking care of themselves for the rest of their lives is not a bad idea. Like, who wouldn't want to eat themselves into oblivion and call it freedom? From Love Dove Bunny. So I'm 47 years old, menopausal, taking meds for high cholesterol, blood pressure, depression, GERD, and allergies. I have treated sleep apnea. I'm also a fat woman. I work a high-stress job. My doctor also knows intentional weight loss is not an option. So she mentioned my A1C is elevated to 6.3 and is concerned. She wants to try to lower it. This test was done on a 12-hour fast. She understands that the current circumstances has aided in stress for everyone, including herself. Diabetes does not run in my family, so I have always felt my risk is low. I also understand that prediabetes is just a term that advises that numbers are concerning. Will I get type 2? Was it a bad summer? If food doesn't cause diabetes, how did my A1C elevate? How can I lower it? Google was not my friend and sent me down some bad rabbit holes. I did a search in the group and saw several posts, but I'm still left confused where I go from here. Point me to some HAES-friendly scientific sources. Berries in me. HAES-friendly, scientific is an oxymoron if I ever saw one. Blutarg, it's right over there next to the dehydrated water. From Vin and Vale. You just proclaimed that if you are obese, you are by definition not healthy. and you piggyback that with your silver lining to the current circumstances poop. There are plenty of overweight people with normal blood pressure, blood lipids, blood sugar, exercise tolerance, etc., ad nauseum. Overweight people, that specific category, tend to live longer than people in other categories, in fact. This has been studied over and over. Little Sally Racket. The HAES people are obsessed with blood work. A blood test doesn't tell you whether someone can climb stairs without wheezing, or whether their bones are close to cracking from the strain of holding their weight, or sleep apnea, or fungal rashes from sweat between fat rolls, or any number of other things. Blood tests I had while I was obese were always fine and dandy, but I still had GERD, which long-term can lead to more serious diseases, ankle and shin pain, high visceral fat, back pain directly caused by my weight, and I could barely walk up a gentle slope without panting like an overheated pug. Just because my blood pressure and blood chemistry were okay, that doesn't mean I was healthy. And for perspective, at my heaviest I was, I think, between 200 and 220 pounds, which is obese, but nowhere near the size of a lot of HAES activists. From Love Dove Bunny. So, yesterday my doctor told me I had mild fatty liver, but my liver function test said my liver was working completely fine. He said this is very common to people who are overweight, and that it is to do with my lifestyle. I should do more exercise and I should try to reduce my waist circumference. I've tried so many weight loss attempts over the years, and now I just can't do it. I've been doing well with letting go of diet culture. I used to binge a lot, but now it's hardly ever, because I just eat what I want.
As an aside, that's not really solving your binging problem. That's just binging constantly.
I do eat pretty healthy, but I do have a sweet tooth, like cheese and full-fat stuff.
Cheese isn't sweet.
And probs drink a little too much. I guess I'm just looking for some guidance on how to not let this set me back. I'm not trying to lose weight, as I know it's bad for my mental health. But I do want to try to be healthier, drink less, maybe cut down on sugar and high-fat food. I still feel like I have exercise resistance, probably because of feeling self-conscious. And I just don't want to end up feeling like I'm on a diet, because I know that doesn't end well. Love Dove Bunny replied to her own thing. It appears that the OP is around 300 pounds and is somehow surprised that she has mild fatty liver. Her ideas to decrease the fat in her liver are pretty much the same ways to decrease overall body fat. I wish she understands that most people lose weight in the ways she's mentioned, and it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. From Moros Ros. Doctors are always amazed when they run my labs. They always expect to lecture me on my health, but I have absolutely perfect lab results every time. No diabetes, high cholesterol, nothing. I'm 330 pounds and more healthy than most people I know. No good doctor should ever be surprised at running labs. They are just ignorant. Reed replied. They call all nurses into the exam room, and they all stare and awe at my perfect numbers. Then they summon the state medical board and the representative comes to speak with me, because never have they seen a more amazing lab specimen. Then everyone claps. Ardhell added, when I was in my mid-late 20s, I was overweight or obese. My labs were always perfect, until they weren't. Now I'm mid-30s and pre-diabetic. It catches up. I wish I'd taken my health more seriously when I was younger. And I feel like most of these poor, deluded young women will as well as they age, and start to have more and more health issues. From Little Sally Racket. What on earth is pre-diabetes? Being at risk of developing a condition is not a condition in itself, surely. The mind boggles. Fat hatred, basically. Sanity pills. Why have a gas meter on a car? If the car is still running, obviously I still have gas. Why do I need to worry about petty details like, I might run out of gas soon? Just let that perfectly preventable scenario smack me dead in the face while going 80 on the 101. From a bunch of numbers. What's your experience? Being in a larger body is linked to adverse health outcomes, but it's correlation, not causation. And research doesn't take into account the adverse effects of weight cycling, or the physical impact of stress related to fat stigma discrimination. In fact, there is growing research showing that the impact of stress from stigma discrimination actually does explain the link between higher body weight and disease. But I'm guessing from fatphobic tone of your tweets that you don't care what the science says. Right Count replied, lung cancer also only correlates with smoking, so I guess I'll start smoking again. From Secretary Similar. Could you lose 10 pounds? Sure, probably for a little while, but at what expense? Skipping out on your child's birthday cake every year? Devoting hours of your life to MyFitnessPal? Always choosing the gym over cozy mornings in bed? Missing out on shared desserts with friends? Skipping the pasta? Going to bed hungry and waking up in the night dreaming of breakfast? Walking a tightrope of maintenance and hating yourself when you gain it back? But sure, you could probably lose 10 pounds. Personette replied, I hate the all-or-nothing mindset that these people seem to have. Like, seriously? They paint it as though in order to lose 10 pounds, you'd have to never eat cake or pasta again. I've been steadily losing weight over the last few months, solely through intermittent fasting and ADF, and guess what? I've had pasta twice in the past week, one of which was in the sauce made with heavy cream. I've also been baking and eating a ton of pies and cakes with all the pears and apples that my family grows. I hate that they make it seem like, if you're not eating 3 massive meals per day and several thousand calories in sugary snacks alone, then you're somehow missing out on tasty foods. And then when you see a slim person eating a slice of cake, they assume it's genetics. When it comes to rich, calorific foods, I find that absence really does make the heart grow fonder. And when I do have something so-called bad, it tastes so much better. In my opinion, people who eat like that constantly are the ones who are missing out. From Elmire 2000. It's not simply that diets don't work, it's that diets don't work by design. The diet industry brings in over $70 billion a year from the sale of products, programs, and ideas it knows cannot and will not work based on significant evidence that intentional weight loss is not sustainable for most, 95% or more of people. In fact, these companies and marketers depend on product program failure because with it comes repeat customers, and with repeat customers comes increased revenues. But bodies do work by design. So it's not just you. You don't have a willpower problem. You aren't a failure. There's no need to blame and shame yourself into working out more, eating less, buying the shakes, memberships, and supplements, and pushing for impossibly sustainable results. Because diets don't work on purpose, and bodies do. Thong of Zardoz replied, So what you're saying is that I'll get the desired results if I temporarily change my behavior, but once I go back to my old habits, those results will be negated? Mind blown. From Dorkita. I have such a problem with sweets. I've lost my balance with intuitive eating, and I want to become more intuitive. I find myself having such strong cravings, even when I'm not hungry for dessert, to cleanse my palate or something after dinner. And because of this, I'm having to go up another size. For the second time this year in my pants. I need help to be held accountable or something. Does this group have sponsors like they have in Alcoholics Anonymous? I feel like sweets are my drug, and I need help. I hope I'm remembering this right. In animal studies, the only time there was a sugar addiction was when sugar was restricted. Labeling food as a problem is a form of restriction. Craving sweets after eating might indicate not eating enough at meals. Seeking comfort food during the current circumstances is a totally normal thing, because things don't feel normal and most of us don't feel okay. I think that saying sugar is a problem is a myth or pseudo-myth from diet culture. I have no advice because you know yourself best. I have found I need to continue to go back to the 10 tenets of intuitive eating, and I always start with, I honor my hunger, I trust my body. Infected Brains replied, That response is just so perfectly wrong that you can say the exact opposite and you would be perfectly right. Sugar is not addictive. Yeah, so is not cocaine. Sure, Jan. From Dorkita. Feeling dejected after an awful Zoom call with a not anymore potential PhD advisor. The entire conversation was supposed to be focused on research related to community-based mental health care. But she just tacked on, we also tackled the OAD epidemic. Not sure if we censor words here, just in case though. Essentially, in the group for mental health care, they pushed diet culture. I asked if it was a part of the research group I could opt out of due to personal beliefs, and I was rather unprofessionally told that being pro-OAD is anti-science and anti-healthcare. She told me if I am to apply to the program, she will not be willing to mentor someone of that mindset. So that's great. I'm just sitting at my desk with a snack trying to gas myself back up. Kitty picture because it's a whole mood.
I'd say something, but you gotta check out this picture. It's this kind of sad-looking cat staring at a duck, maybe staring at some food. It's something else.
From a bunch of numbers. Your before and after weight loss photo is inherently fatphobic. It's automatically positioning being larger as bad no matter your intention. Your actions do not exist in a vacuum. There is no way to talk about how much you hate your larger body without harming your fat friends. They always spout the same BS too. This is not a before and after photo. This is a transformation. Predictable AF. Sit down and dial down the drama. It's a literal before and after photo. No matter how dramatic you get, there are no words in the world that will change that. Bodies change throughout our lives because that's what bodies do. It would be amazing if we stopped positioning fatness with laziness, sadness, and lack of discipline. What a fatphobic, harmful, and inaccurate message to spread. Run Turtle Run replied, I'm single, and while generally happy and content, sometimes it's a bummer. When friends post about new relationships, engagements, or marriages, it's not sending a message that being single is bad. And even if they were to come out and say that being single made them miserable, and that they are so much happier in a relationship, it's not harming me because it's not about me. This attitude of it's selfish not to consider me, and I don't have to consider you, is childish and hypocritical. From Roxy. On a video saying if you don't have rolls standing up, you're not fat, and can't be part of body acceptance. It's the Aussie swimsuit influencers on Instagram that make me so mad. The I'm not perfect but I still love my body. Body positivity isn't for skinny people. I'm tired of seeing skinny girls stick their stomach out like, I get you want to be part of something, but this is not your place. I love when they sit down and they're like, I'm fat too, I have rolls when I sit down. Like, no ma'am, you have skin. Everyone has rolls when they sit down. Love yourself. Kangaroo. Aussie swimsuit influencers. What other incredibly specific group should I follow to trigger myself? From a bunch of numbers. I went for a flu shot and my nurse, upon hearing that I'm an ED therapist, said, OMG, everyone's been eating and eating during the disease. They come in and are unrecognizable. Okay, so what if they did? So what if people decided to self-soothe with food while our world turned upside down? Systemic reviews and meta-analysis overwhelmingly show that obesity is associated both with a higher risk of intensive care unit admission and poorer outcomes for the disease. Probably not a great idea to self-soothe with food. And reviews also show that doctors are disgusted by their fat patients and give them poorer treatment. So if we care about larger bodied patients, we should care to reduce weight stigma above all else. No, we, particularly those with influence, should not be promoting and normalizing using food as a psychological crutch during the current situation, when it will directly worsen the prognosis of both the disease and other illnesses. Nothing at all to do with stigma. Reality is not fatphobic. It's fatphobic when we know that the likelihood that fat people, or those medical professionals, are deeming less likely to survive are being delayed or denied care. Obesity itself significantly worsens the prognosis and long-term consequences of the disease and many other illnesses. I'll send you the links if you like. Promoting a course of action that will directly harm those who follow it is spectacularly irresponsible, to say the very least. She's describing normal human behavior. No one is promoting dietary self-harm. Concern trolling, pretending that you're concerned about the well-being of fat people in order to shame them, is fatphobic and harmful. I understand that it's practically a national sport in the UK. Self-soothing by overeating, thus directly harming yourself and meaning your outcomes, if you do catch the disease, are likely to be much worse, is not normal human behavior. Promoting and normalizing it is harmful and horrendously irresponsible. Please go eat dry food pellets or whatever joyless meal you have planned for yourself, and leave blank alone, and learn to read the room. My God, did I fail to agree with the consensus groupthink? I'm horrified. I tell you, horrified. I'll never live this down. Since your point of view aligns with NHS propaganda, you are agreeing with the groupthink. If you ever want to learn how fatphobia isn't about health at all, but rather a means of using the body to validate race, class, and gender prejudice, I recommend this book.
And she links a book.
Yes, if the NHS, World Health Organization, Cancer Research Fund, Lancet, Nature, and all medical professionals agree, that must be propaganda, right? Much better to listen to a random person selling unsubstantiated crud with some buzzwords and grotesque appropriation of anti-racism. Most of those research studies are funded by corporations that sell diets, make diet drugs and weight loss surgery devices, and otherwise profit from the diet industry. By the way, the diet industry is committed to making people fat, not thin. If diets, pills, weight loss surgery worked, they'd go broke. So your claim is the NHS, WHO, WOF, and all the doctors and researchers who have published peer-reviewed studies in high-impact scientific journals are lying about the damaging effects of obesity for nefarious financial reasons. And you think the NHS is funded by the diet industry?
Well, I'm not even going to comment on all that because it was too crazy.
From Creamy Nut Yogurt. When morbidly obese is included in your medical diagnosis, even though your cholesterol, hemoglobin, blood pressure, and thyroid function are all normal, Also, you're a vegan who averages walking 5 miles a day and lives on a third-story walk-up with no elevator? Glitter Elephant replied, Vegan junk food exists. I went vegan and thought I would lose weight fast. Nope. It took me realizing, poop, I'm overeating, for me to lose weight.
The next two are about Lizzo, who's been all over the place recently. I don't even know what to think.
The first one comes from Beneficial Scars. So, Lizzo posted a gym selfie on Insta and with the caption, Everyone has permission to unfollow me, bruh. No Facetune, ho, and everyone is hyping her up about her weight loss.
Apparently she's lost 50 pounds? I'm not sure.
And yeah, it's not a dramatic amount, and yeah, she can do whatever the fudge she wants with her body. But I feel so hurt that she posted a progress photo. Don't look it up unless you're in the right headspace. And don't read the comments unless you want to feel bad. It wasn't a before and after, at least, but still. I love Lizzo so much, and what she stands for. Stood for helped me so much with my body confidence. And now I feel like she's relieved she doesn't have a body stomach like me. And that fudging hurts so much. I know this has nothing to do with the blank, but y'all are the only folks on the internet I trust to rant about this to. I'm just so sad and disappointed, and I feel betrayed, and then I feel like I shouldn't feel that way because it's her choice, and she should get to feel herself.
Feel herself? Is that appropriate in public?
I don't know, it just hurts, and I feel really alone in it. Anyone else feel this way? Yeah, sometimes it feels like people wear their fatness proudly until they suddenly gain the resources to lose a bunch of weight. For example, celebrity trainers and dietitians, and then they shed that pride with the pounds. Sigh. Grillard. Oh, fudge off with the celebrity trainers and dietitians. There are people right in the sub who've lost over 100 pounds with the don't eat so darn much diet. No dietitian needed. Faithfully replied to that. I couldn't lose weight until a dietitian told me everything I was doing wrong. But it really only took one meeting with her to lose weight. And I was broke AF, so I wouldn't consider it unattainable to the average person. And Dry Pessimist brings us the second thing about Lizzo. Grammy-winning U.S. singer Lizzo believes the body positivity movement has become commercialized by the mainstream and hijacked by those who don't need it. She made the comments while celebrating being the first big black woman to grace the cover of Vogue magazine. Body positivity calls for the acceptance of all shapes and sizes. It's commercialized, the Truth Hurts star said. Now you look at the hashtag body positive, and you see smaller frame girls, curvier girls. She went on, a lot of white girls, and I feel no ways about that, because inclusivity is what my message is always about. Muted writer. Because showing only one size and race is exactly what inclusivity is all about. Juver. I remember where a company in the European country I'm currently staying at was given an equity award by the country's government because 38 of the company's 40 employees were female. That sounds about right in terms of the kind of equality FAs want. Muted writer. Ah, the Animal Farm school of thought. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. From Anti-Apocalypse. If you can't say you can have freedom in your relationship with food, without also adding, but that doesn't mean that you can just eat all junk food, then you aren't liberated from diet culture. If you're a dietitian, that's a serious issue in your practice. Right Count replied, Fine. Freedom to me looks like seeing cake or junk food and not eating it. Being able to just walk away or make a better choice. Freedom looks like having a baseline understanding of macros and micronutrients. Which foods contain which ones and making educated choices. Of knowing how much food should go on a plate. Of not having to buy soda and snacks all the time because I'm addicted to sugar. Yep, food freedom is great. Another one from Anti-Apocalypse. Someone posts to Ragen, You are not a psychologist, nor are you a registered dietitian. Stop. Ragen replies, No, but I regularly teach this information to RDs, physicians, nurses, and other healthcare providers, and allied health professionals. Fork Shirt Up replied, She's not a registered dietitian. Quelle surprise. Why is she in a position to teach other RDs? Am I living in a crazy world where I can go to NASA and show them my third grade drawings of how to survive in Mars? From The Little Sister. Nutrition labels are guides, not mandates. The label doesn't know how hungry you are, what your personal preferences are, or how much you need to feel satisfied. When you're healing your relationship with food, nothing's more crucial than turning out the external noise, guidelines, and objective portion sizes of food and tuning into your own needs, preferences, and internal wisdom. So next time you feel that temptation to see if you're eating too much according to the nutrition label, pause. And this is how they'd have the nutrition label read. Serving size, arbitrary. Servings per container, depends. Nutrition fact panels don't know your life. They can't tell how hungry you are, when you last ate, how satisfying you find food, when you will eat again, how something tastes, how you feel emotionally, how filling a food is. The little sister replied to herself, "Y'all, I have some thoughts. I've been reading Sugar, Salt, Fat by Michael Moss, and it's a deep dive into the dishonest practices and intentionally misleading marketing that the processed food industry creates to sell products. It's just bumming me out how little FAs seem to understand that many of their cravings are not a natural response from their own bodies, but the results of an industry that intentionally makes unhealthy foods addictive for profit. Just had to get that out, stepping off my soapbox now." From Creepy Threads, a little sanity. Body positivity. Examples of body positivity. Wearing whatever the heck you please regardless of your physique. Eating healthy food. Regular exercise. Putting on makeup just because you want to. Maintaining a body weight that is appropriate for your frame and health. Not sweating it if your body isn't perfect. Taking care of health problems before they get out of control. Examples of body negativity. Deliberately eating too much in order to give society the finger. Maintaining sedentary lifestyle. Making catty remarks about the bodies of others. Allowing preventable diseases to take over your life. Spreading misinformation and lies regarding health, potentially harming someone else's body. From r/relationship advice, posted by Have My Stapler. Getting fat and can't talk about it. My wife is an amazing cook. She organizes all the family dinners, sources great quality ingredients from farmers markets and top quality meats. This is time consuming, but it's basically her main hobby. What we eat for dinner is typically better than what the local restaurants put out. But we are getting fat. Recently I saw some photos 13 years ago, before we were married. I had pecs and abs. My wife looked amazing too. My wife has always been curvy, but a curvy size 10 with a rock-hard butt and big boobs. Now we are both draped in flab. My wife, having given birth twice and not being a fan of exercise, has not fared as well as I have. I've gone from a loose 32 jeans to tight 34 jeans. My wife's good-fitting size 10 clothes to baggy size 16 to 18.
As an aside, I don't think either of them are obese. They're just putting on a little weight.
For me, I'll eat basic dinners, and healthier, and frankly happy to eat whatever. I grew up quite poor, so really only ate veggies, fruit, and basic meat until I met my wife, who I think initially started to set out to right a wrong with wonderful food. My wife's very, very sensitive about weight, to the point where it has become sort of a self-fulfilling spiral. Same goes down for me not finishing my dinner. Why didn't you like it? Etc. Yes, when I wrote this out, I see how much more messed up this seems. For my wife, exercise has always been about losing weight on the rare times it happens. And the same goes with healthy eating. It's a punishment of sorts. She just doesn't enjoy exercise in any form, nor eating healthy. I just enjoy the actual act of exercise itself. I've tried and failed a number of times to take charge of the food situation, as even though I do live an active lifestyle, I can't out-exercise our home restaurant food. I generally get discouraged. I've frankly had amazing Instagrammable meals prepared for me for over a decade. My work is based in the US, but I live in the UK, so dinner time is always a tricky dance for me as well. My wife will also ramp up her management of the kitchen when I start to get involved as well. She'll bulk buy meat, start cooking desserts, jams. She seems to want to get in my way. We did do some diets together which really worked well, and a few that failed terribly. On the more successful occasions it has been her idea, and the less successful occasions mine, with a ton of sabotage happening when I had initiated the idea of eating healthy. She'll start baking sabotage cake. Having the conversation about healthy dinners is just a garbage fire. She needs to arrive at that conclusion for herself, I think, but it's an important one that we need to get to soon, before we start looking back with regret on our well-being that we can't back out of. She's evidently discouraged and self-aware, and it really kills her body image. Sex is limited to in the dark and limited frequency as well, because she ain't in the mood. It's because she's so sensitive about her body. I'm still attracted to her, but deep down in my heart, under all those sabotage cakes, I know she could be hotter. I'm convinced issue in this area stems from her dad basically telling her she was fat and ugly her entire childhood, and making her meet those unobtainable runway model standards. Fudged, I know. Her dad would feed her dinner to the family dogs if she was looking overweight, so yeah, messed up. I know the first reaction will be, is she depressed? And I can assure you she is not. She's doing great with her career, her kids, her family, and loves almost every bit of life. She's one of those annoying people that succeeds in everything they do. I'd love her to actually explore the issue, but every time it just results in huge fights, walkouts, and nothing constructive comes of it. I suspect that the pain from her past foreshadows anything else I say or do. Is persistence with trying to covertly take over mealtimes in the food situation my only hope? What else can I do to get on a path to a solution? I'd love to be able to support my wife through this, but I'm kind of lost for an approach that will work.
I think he's got 3 choices. The first one would be that he could show his wife this post. If she reads this, she might understand where he's coming from. Second, she might need to see a professional to talk through her problems. I think she needs to see an expert. And third, he can put down his own foot about his own food and insist that he won't overeat. And if she tries to ignore him, he can just throw away the extra food that she gives him. Cruel? Maybe. But you have to be able to control your own plate of food.